So I'm a past participant of BGP Cranfield, but I started my entrepreneurial career, I guess, at the ripe old age of about 14. So I started fixing bicycles for people that lived in the same street as me. And then when I took old parts off of their bikes and replaced them with parts that they'd bought, I kept the old parts, repaired them, and then started selling them, etc. So I guess I was always, from a very young age, into making money. And then at 16, I was fairly unfortunate, but I was dyslexic, and by the time I came to leaving school, I didn't sit any GCSEs, so I just left school and went straight into work. At 16, I started my first business, which was window cleaning, and I had a window cleaning round, which I ran for about sort of 8-9 months, had a few people working for me, and then I put it up for sale in the classified ads section of the newspaper, sold it for £6,000, bought some second-hand cars, rented a piece of land and started selling vehicles. Unfortunately for me, Transport for London at the time came along and painted double red lines outside my car showroom. I say showroom, it was a piece of grass on the corner of a main road. And business went from making about £1,500 a week to just making nothing. So I had to pack up shop. But when I packed up shop, I realised that Transport for London were putting all this infrastructure in to start fining people. How were they going to collect this stuff? And that's what made me get into what was then later outsourced debt collection services for government. And then I set that up in 2004, ran that through to 2016. And during that journey in 2010, I got to the pivotal part in business, sort of 4 million revenue, losing 400 grand a year. And I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know if I was the right person to carry on running that business. And I'd looked into a variety of courses, came across Cranfield and bought myself off to BGP. And BGP was, just an amazing experience. I met some of my best friends today, I met on that course. But I was nervous. I came off to Cranfield having not had any formal education before. And actually I was a bit almost annoyed with education because I couldn't understand why dyslexia wasn't recognised when I was at school and why I wasn't helped rather than just pushed away. And so I had this nervousness of coming to a university and, it's big and it's bright and it's full of very educated people. But, I got over that and I came, and it was the best decision I ever made. And in that short period of the BGP course, which at the time sort of 3 months every other weekend, and a big commitment when you've got other things going on, especially running a business, I learned everything. But the biggest thing I took away from BGP was confidence. I had the confidence to go back into my business and take it to the next level. I went from making 4 million revenue, 400 grand loss in 2010/11 to selling the business for just over 40 odd million quid in 2017. So BGP had a great impact on that. So throughout my life, I've listened to lots of advice from lots of people and read probably up to a couple of thousand business books. But there's one thing that really sticks out for me, and it came from BGP, and that was the bet big message. And it's a strange one because it's not the message that you would normally tend to hear coming from a university, but they really spoke highly of it, which was bet big if you want to succeed. And I went away from BGP and invested £3 million into developing technology. Now, for a company that was only turning over £4 million and didn't have facilities to get the £3 million, that was betting big. But if I hadn't changed my business model from a services company to a technology company, there's no way I'd be where I am today. Inspirations and motivations, there's one thing I can say is that they just change. I remember early on in business thinking Richard Branson is my inspiration because, let's face it, he's a friendly entrepreneur that everyone knows. When business started to get tough and I realised actually this is about grit and determination, I started to think of people like Michael O'Leary at Ryanair, thinking this guy actually gets it. It's hard work. It's making tough decisions. And then as you start to reap the rewards of your hard work and you've sold a business or two, you start to get a bit softer in your old age, I guess, and you start to really view other people and other things that are inspiring. And one of the biggest inspirations in my life is my eldest brother. And my eldest brother's not a businessman. Actually, he's a social worker, but he also adopts children, and his core values have never changed, which is all about family. And I've had to go on a journey to get there, but that's what motivates me now, is that I've got a family and everything I do from business through to personal life is motivated through that. So there are 3 lessons I've learned in growing and scaling a business, and the most important one of the 3 is that it takes hard work. And anyone who thinks that this is easy, it actually annoys me that it's so easy to set up a business these days, because you can sort of put a business plan together and crowdfund and get going and see how it goes. It's not the reality. It's hard work and determination to get going. And that's just the initial step. Because then to take it any further, you need to understand basic business principles. So that's my point number 2. That if you don't understand the value in metrics and management accounts and measuring things, then it's going to be pretty difficult to keep that business alive. And then the third one is, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. So you've got to set KPIs. You've got to manage people. You've got to manage processes. These things don't just manage themselves.